David, okay ka na?
Yeah.
Start na tayo. Okay, guys.
Okay.
You know, I run these things pretty. Pretty casually. You know, I run it as if I'm just chatting with you, right? So that's how it is. Okay, guys. So we'll start. Be relaxed. Okay, we're just going to be an hour. We extended the last time. We're having a part 2, mainly because nabitin yung part 1. Usually I just do it once, but then nabitin yung discussion. Mainly because David and I were talking too much. Hindi namin na-cover lahat ng question and answer. So for the first timers, guys, welcome to my live cast. It's called Ask Me Anything. I basically invite friends in the industry, and we just ask them about anything. So the first one, David, old friend, one of my most successful friends. This is my way to interact with him kasi if I don't invite him here, he won't talk to me. So so at least ngayon kakausapin mo ako, di ba? And I have your undivided attention. So I invite friends in the industry. Most of them are the movers and shakers, and we do a live cast, very casual, and we talked about. For David, obviously, we talk about anything on radio. Okay. Pero may mga sumingit ng love life last time. Siguro, we might allow some of those again, depending if we have time. So let's go start this thing. A few rules, okay? A few rules. First one is, we'll start with the one-on-one between me and David. And then after that, you guys should be on mute. Kasi we usually get, between 100 to 200 people in this call. But, we'd like everybody to be able to comment. So put it on the chat tab. And if you have, that's for your comments. And then if you want any questions, put it in the Q&A tab, okay, in advance. We actually have a lot of questions from the last time. We'll also try to address those. Then we'll do a live Q&A after the one-on-one. Now, all of you can be a panelist. In other words, volunteer, and you can be a panelist. As a panelist, you can ask questions directly, not on the Q&A. So later on, I'm going to ask you. What you do is you raise your hands. There's an option there in Zoom, and then we will upgrade you to a panelist. Now, once you're a panelist, you need to give your full name and put your video on. So kung di pa kayo nag-ayos, di pa kayo naligo, di pa kayo nag-toothbrush, okay lang yan. Di naman namin alam. So, but we need your full name kasi there are some Zoom bombers and we want to avoid that. We just really want to have a really good discussion among people in the industry. Folks, so that's our rules. So this is part 2. Ask Me Anything with David Leechiu. As you well know, David is, again, I'll introduce him again. He has sold more than 1 million square meters of office space and sold more than $2 billion of real estate. Diba? So it's one of the most successful real estate property consultants in the country. I'm fortunate enough to have met David Leechiu before he was David Leechiu, right? So, kaya at least, diba? At least remember me when you're not yet big. Diba? So David is really beyond a property consultant. He has invested himself in several properties. If you are in BGC, you see the W building. He's part of that. Sayang hindi siya naging WL kasi siyempre the guy who put in more money is the W, but David's still part of that. Di ba ganun yun, di ba? Mas maraming pera pangalan mo. So, nakita tayo ng L building. So, anyway, so I didn't want to introduce David again this very formal way, di ba? Casual nga tayo. So I said, tignan ko kaya yung Facebook page ni David, hanapin ko kung nasan siya, right? It says I'm sharing the wrong screen. David, what do you see?
Huh?
What do you see on your screen?
What do I see on my screen? Wait. Nothing. Just your.
Okay.
Okay, there. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. So there. So this is David. I'm saying.
Yeah.
So this is where we are, part 2. Okay, just to go back, right? So Ask Me Anything with David Leechiu. So this is the Thames Livecast. I host this. This is David. Okay. So actually, so as I was making kwento, di ba? I didn't want to introduce David the formal way, but anyway, this is what his staff sent. I tried to look for David in Facebook, and
I'm not in social media.
this is what I found. In Facebook. Sabi ko, ibang klase si David, ibang identity niya sa Facebook, di ba? So, ikaw ba to o ano?
That's fake, I guess. I don't have social media, so
hindi pala ikaw yan. Kasi when I saw it, sabi ko si David lumaki, oh. Lumaki yung
that's
mata.
clearly not me. I wish that was me.
So you're not in social media. So guys, you can find him in social media, and if you message this David Leechiu in Facebook about property, I don't know what he's gonna say, but maybe
It's a booty call. It's a booty call webpage.
So let's review. For those who were there last week, let's do a quick review of what we discussed. Okay, so the Philippine real estate impact of COVID-19. So before COVID-19, diba, it was literally our real estate market was so hot, on fire. Then, of course, after COVID, people are getting scared. What's it going to be? And David said, things are going to go down, right? Lease rates are going to go down. There's going to be foreclosures, and they're going to be bargains. So that's the general outlook. Now, there's an interesting discussion on POGOs, diba? So some people like POGOs. The ones who are leasing out to POGOs love the POGOs because they pay higher, right? And then they take on a lot of space. They pay in advance. And something interesting came out. Sabi ni David, well, the POGOs are gonna make a comeback, pero hindi lamang the Chinese POGOs. Meron na tayong Indian POGOs. Yan, diba? Interesting, darating raw. So, mapupogo na tayo, over-pogo na tayo. But anyway, he did say 15% of all of our commercial spaces are leased by POGOs. Not really so big when you think about 15%, but then they pay a higher rate. So that's interesting. And one thing is that when the POGOs from India do come, they'll be hiring a lot of locals because they need English-speaking people. Currently, in the Chinese POGOs, as you well know, they hire people from mainland China because of the language thing. But in reality, if we want more people to be employed by the Chinese POGOs, just learn Mandarin. And I'm sure they will also hire Filipinos.
That's true.
Right? Why not, right? I mean, it's more expensive to bring somebody from mainland China here. So something to think about. So we also talked about the food industry. And of course, that was the headline. Ito si Jollibee before and after, di ba? COVID. I forgot to ask the CEO, si Atos, a friend of mine, kung talagang sa kanila tong after na to or just somebody just made a mistake and it's a reject. But anyway, so the headline, what David said, that the restaurants and condos actually, it's a bleak prospect. He went as far as saying 50% will all be dead, but then he reduced it down to 30 to 40% will close. That's what he said. And I think the opportunity there is that new players will now be able to get prime space. Diba? It's so hard to get a new restaurant space. But if 30 to 40% will close, then if you're a new player coming in now, you will actually get the prime space you've been always wanting to get. So, opportunities. As we said, for every crisis, there's an opportunity. So, for new spaces, you'll get it now. And you're not only getting the prime spaces that are suddenly going to be available. I remember David said, rents on the ground floor will go as low as discount of 40%. Tama ba yun, David? Between 30 to 40% discount trend, di ba?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe some even 50. So really opportunity for now. For those who want to expand, may opportunity kayo. Okay, for tourism, David said, people are going to go back and flock. Is that going to happen? Well, look at what happened, di ba? Over the last weekend. Inopen lang yung mall sandali. Di ba? Punong-puno na. So I guess we can expect that from tourism, as David mentioned. People are so hot to get out there. The challenge, though, is when. David, what's your prediction? When do you think the tourism sector will open up?
As soon as we lift the travel bans and
with or without the vaccine.
With or without the vaccine, and I think they will it will be very, very segmented. Like the high end market and the upper middle will gravitate towards the very exclusive resorts and the smaller hotels. They will avoid the big hotels, and they will probably go to places where the airport terminals are small. So, for example, instead of going to, let's say, Cebu, maybe because it's a big terminal, they would probably go to Bohol and then maybe take a boat or take a ferry or bring their yacht. So I think there's a lot of that happening.
So shift, no? You didn't say this last time. Marami ka lang natutunan in just 1 week. Ang galing mo talaga. So, but that's a good point, di ba? Na, yeah, if na-lift na yung travel, why am I gonna go to the super crowded ones? It's social distancing.
And also, I think because we can't go abroad, because many people will still be very concerned about going abroad, riding an airplane, international airplane. They would go use domestic flights where it's not so restrictive, and they will use smaller planes in lower traffic areas.
Actually, you're right. You know, I was actually talking to Undersecretary Art Bongcato kasi with Secretary Berna, we also want to do something for the tourism, no? And then they did say also that, you know, volume talaga between, I forgot the number, it's between 80 to 90% of all tourists in terms of number of people are basically domestic, di ba?
It's about 92% domestic.
92% domestic.
Yes.
So,
the tourism in the Philippines is 92% domestic. There's very few foreigners coming.
Actually, in a way, that's a big plus for us, for anybody in the property sector or in the tourism industry, because if we're so dependent on foreign tourists, we're really done for, right? So there's really, it's not as bad if we look at it. Look at Thailand, right? How many percent are tourists there? I think about, with their 30 million, you know,
34 to 36 million. Tourists.
5 lang.
8. Ours is 8.
The latest is 8. That's good.
Yeah.
So opportunities for tourism, it's not going to be that bad. We just have to wait. Okay. Yeah. We also talked about work from home and the new normal. Muscle shirt. So I realized pala he had to wear this body suit makeup because his body cannot go that ugly. Me, I just don't exercise for 2 weeks. My body's that ugly. So you know, so the work from home, David said, doesn't really work for the Philippines because not everybody has a good environment for working at home. He even said that, you know, I didn't realize is that it's from a mainit sa bahay. Not everybody has aircon that is really malamig, and Pinoy's like, you know, aircon from. So it's really hot now. The conditions for them not so good. So a work from home is a romanticized concept. Most Filipinos don't like to work from home. They'll go back to work. That's why there's still opportunities for commercial spaces. And of course, as we all know, the new normal is social distancing, and which comes back to what David said, that the resorts who are smaller and more, in a way, far-flung and less people is where most of the tourists would actually go to. So, guys, I'm moving a bit faster because there's so many things to cover. Okay, so let's go to the next part of the Q&A. We're starting the part 2, that's the summary. So let's go deep into the residential market. A lot of people wanted to go into that a bit more. David, I'm going to show some slides from your office, and if you could explain it a little bit. So this is the land value. Okay, this is the land value for BGC. You could just explain this slide a little bit more and how it has moved from 2010 to now.
Yeah, so the blue line shows you condominium space. So the blue bars per year is your base capital. Had you invested in Bonifacio office space back in 2010 when it was only 100,000 pesos a square meter. Today, that same unit will cost close to 250,000 per square meter. And then the orange shows you the amount of capital appreciation you'd have made had you held on to that unit.
That's
But
BG. Yeah.
in BGC. And the green line shows you the rent per year. And despite the amount of supply that Bonifacio produces, and each year for the last 15 years, Bonifacio has been the biggest supplier of office space in the Philippines, amounting to about 50% of all office stock per year for the last 15 years. And the gray line shows you the yield you would have gotten based on your acquisition cost of 100,000 pesos per meter, which will show you that even last year, you would have gotten a 16-17% return on just that 1 year, in addition to all the other rental income that you've generated previously.
So with the opportunities now, we said that things are going to drop, diba? That's why I wanted to show this chart. Let's just take a look at BGC, a case study. What is your expected drop, or if there's a drop for BGC?
Yeah, I think we're not going. Like I said from the beginning, it depends on how long this lockdown is going to last. If we are able to lift the lockdown by within July, then it will give enough time for many businesses to recover. And I always said also that the first catalyst and mover of that will be the smaller banks. So maybe not the top 3 banks, but the lower, like bank number 9, number 10, number 15. These banks have been holding their breath, so to speak, for the last 3 months, 4 months. But from the delta from March 15 to let's say end July is very long. That's like 5 months. And at some point, they will have to get principal payments done. Right now, in the first 2 months of the lockdown, the banks have been asked to defer the principal payments, defer credit card billings for a month. Now, they cannot do that indefinitely.
That's right.
So if we continue to be on a lockdown all the way to August, all the way till September, then a lot of businesses, starting with the smaller banks, will start calling on loans. And because you've been in lockdown, many of these businesses have used up their cash flow. They were able to pay salaries of people for 2 months straight with no revenue, and now they're running out of cash by August, September.
Okay,
and so
that's the determinant.
Yeah. So now, how long we stay in lockdown and how long revenues are going to be zero will determine how quickly prices will drop. If we are able to credibly lift this lockdown before August, then it will give time for many businesses to recover. And because of that, we might avoid a crash in the market.
Okay, so that's why wait and see, diba? Which is the hard part. So let's take a look at another crazy place, the Bay Area. This is similar to the chart, BO, pero now we're talking about the Bay Area, the MOA area, right?
And residential.
Residential again. So you're showing that, again, this is the 85,000 in 2008 is now 161,000 per square meter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a different, because the MOA area is nandyan yung mga pogo eh. So
yeah, the largest home of pogo.
So iba yung dynamics in that area,
Yeah.
So
definitely.
How do you see that area?
I think it will continue to be a very attractive place for pogos and for overseas investors. There's something about the water. There's something about the sunset that you and I take for granted. I mean, I grew up and people keep sending postcards and all that, but apparently this is a very rare thing for many people from Vietnam, from Cambodia, from Hong Kong, from Singapore.
Yes.
They really fall in love with the with the water. And the highest views, the most expensive properties in Hong Kong are the ones that look into the bay, as an example. And they love the sunset, especially this sunset. We grew up being educated that this is like, beautiful sunset, etc. But the money of investors actually validate that by all the investments that they make in the bay. And this is pre Pogo. I mean, the romanticism that many foreigners have for the bay has been there pre Pogo, and it just got accelerated by the Pogo sector.
So I think, true to point, siguro that's one reason why China wants to make us a province, just because of the sunset, di ba? See? Unlock sila, pare, wala silang sunset tulad natin. No? But it's true.
Actually, yeah, because it's a big landmass, and the people with the sea view are only in the coastal areas.
Yeah, we do take it for granted because we see sunsets everywhere with 7,200 islands, diba? But yeah, if we take it from that point of view, that's where the premium comes. There's another slide that will show. Sorry, just a quick question. If the Pogos the Pogos from China want to go to Mall of Asia, where do you think the Pogos from India would like to be set up?
I think they will do the same. They will have pretty much the same footprint.
So they'd also like to be near the water.
Yeah, they'd like to be near the water. They'd like to be near the casinos. They like to be near the business district, which is why Makati will continue to do well. And then the Bay Area, and the Bay Area primarily because the casinos are there, and there's this big association between the Pogo operators and the casino operators, and the ecology, the what do you call that? The ecosystem of the gambling industry.
So para magkakasama sila na band of robbers, brothers pala, di ba? So anyway, so here, let's talk about the rental market naman. Yung mga marami nagpaparenta dyan, okay, now look, this is gonna be hit hard, I think, because Airbnb, I have so many friends who started buying condos and they said, sabi ko, bili ng condo. Sabi na, pinapa-Airbnb ko lang eh. So this is the residential market, rental market, okay? So maybe you can talk about this also from the perspective of Airbnb.
I think because people are so scared about going to hotels right now, and they probably are veering away from Airbnb. But I always say that that there's always going to be a market for residential leasing. Now, it's on fire right now. It's on steroids right now because of the Pogo sector. And if the Pogo sector leaves, then the residential condo market, in particular in the Bay, will get hit. And so rents will go from what it is now, it will probably come down by a meaningful range. And but it will just mean that the locals will be able to go back and rent these spaces again. So I'm telling landlords that it's going to be okay. It's not going to be zero. And you've been spoiled by a fantastic rate of return, because even if you had bought at today's prices, today's rents will give you a 9%, 10% return, when most real estate assets only give you 5 to 7% return.
Exactly. In Singapore, my friends are already happy with 3%.
Yes, and in Japan, they're jumping up and down with 2%.
Yes.
And so I think it's not all going to be gloom and doom. You're just going to be making less money for an asset that you've already paid for or can pay for itself.
Okay.
And if the foreigners go away, the locals will pick up the units anyway, because there's still a very big leasing market in the Philippines, in Metro Manila.
Okay, so at least, for those with assets, as long as you're not in debt, I guess, and you're able to pay for it, if I remember what David said, no matter what happens, property will always correct itself, right, David? So
the time will correct your mistake.
Sorry?
Time will correct your mistake.
Yes, time will correct your mistake. So, ingat lang na hindi tayo ma-foreclose at this time. That's why in our discussion when David was sharing one of his growing up, in the last one, his growing up lessons with cash is king. So, let's talk about outlook. And David, maybe just quick, where do you see the recovery of the Philippines among these charts, these visual charts? Diba? They have the V shape, the W shape, the L shape, the swoosh shape. So we didn't know what it was in March, right? But now we're. So where do you see it going? Your own perspective.
My humble opinion, okay, based on everything that I know,
Yeah,
it's probably looking more L-shaped. L-shaped.
this
Uh,
one.
meaning
Uh,
meaning there's going to be a floor somewhere very soon, and then we're going to start seeing a gradual climb up. That I think is my conservative view.
Yeah, no way do you think it's going to be a V?
Oh, it's definitely possible. Definitely possible.
But it's still possible from your perspective. Okay.
Yeah, it's quite possible. In fact, I'm only using the L because
Kasi
you know,
pangalan mo,
hindi. Kasi
it's only an investment.
because I've been heavily criticized. I've been heavily criticized for being optimistic. But then, really, a big part of me is actually saying V shape more than an L shape because what we see on the ground. Yes, there's a lot of problems. That's why we're still in the downward spiral, right? We're still in the downward trajectory today. But I think it's going to. There's a very good chance we'll do a V-shaped recovery. Even though to be conservative about it, we'll probably do an L-shaped kind of gradual climb. But so many things are working in the favor of the Philippines that I think we've got a very good chance of a V-shaped recovery.
So I think, yeah. So I think everybody should pray for a V shape because there's so many people without jobs and they're actually going hungry. Yung masahista lang namin, di ba? I mean, they have nothing. The coaches for my daughter and her friends, the coaches for archery, because my daughter does archery. The coaches have no income, di ba? So we just try to give them allowances. So a lot of people without, and let's pray for a V-shaped recovery, but prepare for an L shape, di ba? So as David.
And a lot of people I realized are going through a lot of problems, and when that happens, their perception of the future is a lot darker than others who are not going through that, obviously. But also, there's a segment in society that are very cash rich today, who have been sitting with this cash for a very long time, and they are salivating right now. That's why part of that is clouding their call of the future, because they're really genuinely hoping that it will keep falling, so that they can deploy cash and acquire assets at a very low price. But just imagine, the provincial malls that they opened 3 weeks ago, and how they've been populated. So many of my clients are surprised that their stores actually did better than what they expected. They were expecting 20-30% volume from for COVID, right? And they're actually getting 40-70% volume pre-COVID. So that's a fairly healthy recovery given
Actually,
the
go into that, the provincial market, kasi nga, a lot of people wanted to know your thoughts. So that's good. So moving forward, we're going to talk about this one. We're going to talk about the outlook, diba, for the provincial sector. But allow me, since David was talking about malls, I'll share this. I'd like to share this. Sorry, let me share screen. Okay, let me share a video that that I think we should all see, because it talks about what the future would be if we manage it well, right? So here, let me show you a video of how Thailand is opening up
Yeah.
their, okay?
Yeah.
In case you've seen this, it's good to see. So yeah, I go to, it's my favorite mall, Paragon. Usually when I go to Bangkok, I try to stay beside it. Um so look at that, right? Uh, I mean, Thailand is not the reason I believe Thailand has really went way ahead of the Philippines. They really deploy technology in a lot of things, right? So between what we have and what we did when we did the modified ECQ, and look at that, right? I mean, so where do you see technology playing into this whole property sector, David?
Well, I think first of all, just in my opinion, my opinion is that the big difference with maybe companies like countries like Taiwan, Vietnam, Thailand, uh, even Singapore and South Korea, even though the numbers in South Korea are spiking again and Singapore's spiking again, is that they're less of a democracy, right? Especially in Vietnam, when the government says we move this way, just like in China, we move this way, everyone obeys and follows because they're so used to having a strong hand in government. Here, we are very democratic. There's more liberty here, and therefore we tend to transgress laws and rules much more often. So that's probably a big part, the psyche of people.
Yes.
And
Mindset, I think, mindset also.
yeah. And then second is that I guess technology takes a while to adapt because it's so expensive. I mean, you look at the jokes that many of the stand-up comedians talk about, say when they refer to Philippine security, right? They have this one guy with a guard with a magic stick, you know.
I saw that. So funny.
So so it takes a while. Even up to today, I still get a magic stick, you know, in hotels, in malls, in office buildings. It's still the magic stick, and I can't understand why. I can't understand why really, but anyway.
Dapat nilagay ko sa meme yan eh. Meme pala yan. Di ba? They're checking COVID with a magic stick kasi that's how they think. So
Yeah, and the attempts they have in doing electronic applying technology are also very half-hearted. It's not all the way, considering how cheap the investment is relative to the asset that you're protecting, or the billions of pesos that's actually being traded in these facilities. I just can't get my mind to appreciate why that's the case.
well, I shared that video to the IATF, right? Particularly because that video came about right after what happened during the malls during the opening weekend, right? So and I'm hoping that both the property owners or most of our friends, right, can really take a look at it collectively, because we can't afford another spike and then you stop, because it's gonna hurt this time. I mean, it already hurt. You don't want to be hurt twice. So I'm hoping that they can see that, hey, there's a solution naman. It's being done somewhere. And it's actually very easy to just go out there and then say, hey, whoever did that for Thailand, let's bring it to the Philippines, right? So
Yeah.
we're going to go to the outlooks now for the provincial sector. Pero before that, because a lot of people wanted that, commercial break muna. Sorry, that's really part of this. You'll get this because, we also run a business. So I just want to tell you that this is how we're pivoting to the new normal, Thames International. We are putting in, we've always been technology enabled, but now you all know that the only ones making a lot of money now are the e-commerce companies. So we've been teaching e-commerce in the school, but then now we are integrating it in all our programs because e-commerce is the new normal. So we now have a senior high school. All of our undergraduate programs have integrated e-commerce, from our postgrad to everything. So Thames is also the e-commerce learning partner of the DTI. So we're trying to really help the different small businesses transform to e-commerce right away, because that's the only time they're going to earn money. So if you have by the way, we started our senior high school also. So if you have a son or daughter or a relative wants to go to senior high school, we're the coolest senior high school. Wala kaming uniform. Sorry, I'm yung mga senior high school, dapat college na yan, ba't pa sila naka-uniform? Naawa ako sa kanila. So kami walang uniform. It's really our style, right? We're very entrepreneurial, we're casual, we're lit, as they call it. So even our senior high school, this exemplifies what we believe in, It's time that they learn how to express themselves. And for those entering the new normal for the e-commerce, here are e-commerce courses in partnership with Singapore Institute of Materials Management. E-commerce and e-fulfillment, you need to transform. Now you have to deliver all of your goods. Logistics is more critical. We'll go to that also, David, because on the property side, e-commerce has a big impact. And more than anything, security. Sobrang important. As more people go into the online space, resilience and security is critical. So those are the things that we're doing to pivot. So, pagpasensya nyo na ako, sandali lang yun. That's less than a minute. But it's true. Diba? So, let's talk outlook. Let's go by province. Sige. Cebu, Davao, rest of the Visayas. Cebu muna, what do you think?
Cebu is the disaster recovery center of the Philippines for the BPO sector, and it is a growing hub for the POGO sector, and it is the second largest economy in the Philippines after the NCR, and so it will continue to prosper. It is the gateway to tourism, to the what you call the Turquoise Triangle, and that's why I'm very optimistic about tourism for this region. The Turquoise Triangle was a term coined by the Department of Tourism years ago that refers to Cebu, Bohol, Palawan, and Boracay. So that's a triangle, and I think of all these places, uh, um, they will grow together. And what I'm encouraging many um, governments and private developers to do is to build a luxury yacht ship, um, luxury boat market, because this triangle, this very small geography, or not geography, what do you call that? Waterway, is one of the most beautiful places to sail, and it's very safe.
That's true.
And so,
My other friend, I'm sure you know him, J Aldeguer, right? He's with Island Souvenirs. So he started this whole islands bangka, luxury bangka, and it really clicked, right? Because
yes,
it's
yes,
so beautiful. If you can't afford the yacht, there's so many luxury bangkas now in Cebu, di ba?
yes, yes, yes. And so, you can spend 5 days, 6 days, 1 week
Hmm.
in a boat traveling this whole area.
That's right.
And this whole area will offer a wide lifestyle, of choices. You can dock in Bohol, and from Bohol you can go and do so many things, from mountain trekking, hiking, bird watching, fireflies, river tours, etc. Palawan, you can do pretty much almost everything.
So I think
Uh,
that's really where domestic tourism should really be promoted. Because there's a certain segment who would rather travel abroad than travel around the Philippines, right? So
yeah,
that particular one is really an opportunity because that you know the ones who travel abroad still have the money and they haven't used it. It can now
yeah,
be used for domestic tourism, di ba? That same
yeah.
budget, so that's so yeah, so I guess we're saying that on the Visayas side, because of the tourism play, there's still
Yeah.
opportunities. What about Davao? Uh, you think it will
The-
continue growing? It will continue growing, assuming we have a change of presidency to the
I
daughter, to the
yeah,
daughters.
I think so, because Davao has always been the capital of Mindanao, and a lot of my clients in the BPO sector want to go to Davao. They cannot now because of the martial law that's currently in place in the whole of Mindanao.
Understood.
And second, there's a real issue on security, which is why you have martial law in the Visaya, in Mindanao. But the moment that's lifted, and and at least if they can just lift Davao and Cagayan de Oro from the martial law, then I think it will encourage many other companies to go back to Davao uh, and to Cagayan de Oro. Now, Bukidnon and Cagayan de Oro are gorgeous. They're beautiful. Some of the I've never seen so much greenery in the Philippines the way I have in Bukidnon and Cagayan de Oro. And I've done the river rafting. It's fantastic. It's really, really, really fantastic. Except that I've realized that during that 2 hours, 3 hours of doing that anything can happen.
Yeah. Actually, we have to do a fast talk now, David. I didn't realize time is there, so quick, because we need to give a floor to questions. Sorry. When we have discussions, para tayo mag-shota haba-haba. So,
So
Santos, Central Luzon,
I'm
Rest of
excited.
Luzon. Oh, let's
Okay,
do a fast talk now.
I'm
Minamadali na tayo.
excited I'm excited for Luzon, because when Clark opens, the northern Luzon will open to tourism. So surfing, tourism will be big, and trade will be big. Central Luzon,
So you
very
say,
excited.
so you don't think property prices are going down in that area?
Uh, they might come down if this crisis lasts long, but if not, we'll make a strong recovery in many of these places.
Okay, cool. So, uh, we need to open it up to Q&A. So for those who want to be panelists, raise your right hand. Sorry, raise your hand virtually now. Not raise your right hand, stupid me. Just raise your hand virtually now, and then we'll make you a panelist. I'm going to start Any questions? Sorry, guys. I know I should give you more time for questions. I can't be hugging David. I mean, not literally, right? So questions. I have. Can I just get from the? I think we have like 100 unanswered questions from the last time, so we have to change this format a bit because there's so many questions. Okay, quick question from last time. Tagaytay City. They said, what about proper? Should they? Is it a good time to sell it now, or what should I do with it? Okay.
It's never a good time to sell in a crisis. So if you can hold on to it, hold on to it. If you really need to sell it, then sell it. If you sell it during this environment, you have to be realistic with the price expectations.
Okay, so Emily saw, she said, when people using more online ordering, many physical stores might close and opt for digital. Will this affect the commercial space? So that's as I said, that's related to the e-commerce outlook, right? David, your thoughts?
I think e-commerce will keep growing, especially now, but it will be limited to a habit between the upper middle and above, which is only 20% of the population. So a big chunk of the population will still do brick and mortar malling. And then, however, I know that the big transactions are really done by the upper end. So it really depends on the category.
I think
I don't think, yeah, I don't think malls will be hurt in a meaningful way.
So you're saying 80% would still prefer the brick and mortar, and they will wait for that, right?
Yeah. And then we're only going online because we have no choice.
Yes.
But the moment you give us a choice, many people, even in the upper middle and above, will still go shopping. There's something about touching clothes and holding stuff in your hands before you make a decision, and that's part of the allure of shopping.
Okay, cool. So we have Ray De La Cruz. Sounds like the singer. Anyway, what about the healthcare sector? Any insights?
I'm very excited about healthcare because we send so many nurses all over the world, and there are still 250,000 unemployed nurses in the Philippines. We will be the healthcare center of the world because the world is fast aging. Healthcare is very, very prohibitive everywhere, especially in the developed countries, and we have to figure out a way to credibly fill that need. We have enough airports. The Philippines is so much safer now. There's so many things to do, and the price of technology and treatment is 1/3 to 1/6 of the cost of doing it in the West, maybe even bigger. The gap is even bigger, and so we have to capitalize on that. Just look at South Korea, Japan, are the two fastest two fastest aging countries in the world. It's not just them. It's almost every country.
Okay, cool. So Jojo Katipon asked, what about Quezon Province? He said, Flex extension, what's it looking like?
I think they need to figure out the NPA insurgency issues in that whole region, from Quezon all the way to Bicol. Number two is that the infrastructure has to be built to a standard that can withstand the weather, because that's the doormat of the typhoon belt. And of the 20 storms that hit the Philippines every year, a big chunk of those storms pass and enter Bicol, Quezon. But it can also be our answer to Amazon, meaning the Amazon forest. There's I don't remember the forest right now that's in Quezon, but it's a heritage site. It's preserved. We just have to take care of it, nurture it, and expand it. And that could be a fantastic tourism site if we can make people feel safe there and make it accessible. Some of the most beautiful roads I've ever driven were going to Quezon.
Exactly.
Also, some of the worst roads I've ever driven also in Quezon.
I remember that bituka ng manok, they call that, diba? The zigzag.
Yes.
So there's a question from Mr. Harvey Ong, diba? My idol who's heading Alphamart. He says, do you expect this administration and future administrations to follow through on recent pronouncement of decongesting NCR, diba? Yung Balik Provincia program? If so, which cities and provinces will benefit?
I think the market will decongest Manila, but regardless of the efforts of politicians and administrations, I think the market will. But also, there is a process called urbanization, which is a global phenomenon, which happens and continues to happen despite every government's effort to stop it. Globalization. So the only way that's going to work is if people uproot themselves. Like for example, what ABS-CBN is doing when they were looking to build their headquarters in San Jose, Bulacan.
Yeah.
Right? That's a very bold move for a company the size of ABS-CBN to go and say, I'm going to leave this comfort zone of Quezon City to go in no man's land of Bulacan. But it's great if they can pull it off.
Yes.
And we need more, in order for progress to happen, we need more companies like that to happen. But I can also tell you that the BPO sector and the BOGO sector have been very aggressive in expanding in the provinces. And the biggest employers in the provinces are the BPO sector.
Okay, we have something related to getting your words of wisdom. You're also a dad, just like me, diba? So it's from Kins Quintanar. This is
Hey, kids.
what careers will be in demand after this COVID event? So she's asking both of us to comment. What should our kids explore as degrees, diba? So with the new normal in the future, like what would you recommend as the fast growing careers?
So I've always told my children that the future is going to be about three industries. Number one, environment. Number two, infrastructure. Number three, technology. So any one of these three, supporting whether directly or supporting these industries.
Environment, infrastructure, technology. Okay.
Yes. And why? Because the world is about to the world population is constantly growing. So today we're 7 billion people. In less than 60, 70 years, we'll be 11 billion. Number two, we will need to be fed. Number three, we will all need to flush. And so we've made such a big mess out of the environment. And so environmental science will become more practical as a science and more widely distributed. It won't just be an industry for nerds and quirky people.
Okay.
It will be mainstream. And infrastructure because of this. Sanitation and sewage systems, practically only 10% of the 10% of Manila gets access to sewage treatment plants as an example, as a metric. We have to do much more than that.
So on our part, right? At least I'm handling two of those that actually of those three. I'm actually, at least in Thames, we're offering a combination of those three because, like, obviously in technology, since we're focusing, anybody wants to enter e-commerce, this is where the school for you. And then the other one is infra because, like, supply chain. That's all part of the infrastructure. It's not just physical infrastructure, but it's actually the systems and the processes. So on Thames side, we have the whole supply chain and logistics as part of our e-commerce programs. And I'm an advocate for the environment, like all things. That was my master's. So, hey, oh my God, I didn't realize it's 11, and I'm being told by your handlers we need to get you out because you're so in demand.
No.
So
I still have time.
Okay, guys. So look, two questions. Okay. Hi, Robert. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. So, okay. So here from Raymond Garcia, the BSP reserve is easing, encouraging banks to loan more and lower interest rates. Do you think the banks will actually do it, or will reverse will reverse this from happening? So, guys, it's a good question. Are the banks gonna support us as we try to recover? What are your thoughts on that?
Market forces will dictate it. And so today the cost of borrowing is higher, even though T-bills are falling and interest rates are falling because of because of the higher risk to lend today. But under normal circumstances, we expect interest rates to continue to deflate. It's happening all over the world. It can't be stopped.
Okay. So there's a very practical, actually on the finance side, right? It's really about relationships with the banks. And I tell you this, that you really have to have a good relationship with the bank now. And because that's how it is. They will look at your track record. And I was doing credit scoring was doing a talk on credit scoring with TransUnion. And we all have our credit scores. So I just wanted to remind everybody, check what your credit scores are. And then then you would know how much your bank is going to support you. There's a question from Joel Cabalia about should people be going into data? As you said, David, anything technology is part of it, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's a very practical question from Kat de los Reyes. Question, how can real estate developers and agencies and agents best market their properties at this time of social distancing? Kasi nga, they cannot see their clients, di ba? So, what's your tip for them?
You have to build a relationship with your clients, so much so that they can buy off plan from you. A lot of these transactions are really driven by relationship. So if you haven't built that relationship before COVID, then once we get out of COVID, then you have to think about how to reestablish that. But I think the ones who have built a relationship with your clients pre-COVID, and then you enjoy that today, then I suggest you capitalize on that.
Okay. I'd like to end. Sorry, we do need to end because we promise everybody. Thanks, David. We want to end by just a few things. If you have 10 million pesos today, you have an extra 10 million, where would you put it? Where would you invest it?
Most likely in the stock market.
Why?
It's the most efficient way to build money. It's liquid. You can go in and out anytime. And then the moment you make money off the stock market, you can put those proceeds in the property market and generate recurring income.
So guys, with that advice, you know that David is objective. He could have said, bigyan mo sa akin yung 10 million mo, ako mag-harap ng property. But it's a fair and objective advice. Yes, because as we said, liquidity is king. And so that's where we're going. So if you want to know more about the services of David Leechiu, this is what he does: tenant, investment sales research, project valuation, project selling, landlord representation. Love Life Consulting, he will think about that. Diba? Kasi there's money in that. A lot of people are lonely, stuck in their homes. So please take a screenshot. This is how to get in touch with Leechiu Property Consultants. And take a screenshot too of us in Thames. So guys, thank you very much. I failed to do this panelist thing. I've been trying. It's my second time. I really want to give everybody a chance to speak, and then we sometimes have a problem. We'll change our format. Our next live cast is going to talk about how to manage your money post-COVID. It's about where to put it, finance and everything. So I'll tell you when that is. Thank you guys for coming. David, maraming salamat uli.
Bro, thank you for having me again.
I hope you guys had fun, and see you guys soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thanks, David.
Thank you.